Welcome to a world of heart-centered conversations, where we learn to embrace vulnerability and nurture meaningful connections. Claire stood before the imposing iron gates, feeling dwarfed by their towering height. A cautious sigh escaped her lips as she realized that this was her last hope, the final address on her list. The fear of rejection weighed heavily on her heart, and she felt as if she were at the end of her rope, engulfed in exhaustion and despair. Securing a job had become a matter of survival for Claire, and the ticking clock only heightened her sense of urgency. If she didn't find employment soon, her only option would be to borrow money, an idea that churned her stomach. Despite this, she struggled to think of anyone who could provide the financial support she desperately needed. Her mind felt like an empty canvas, devoid of any names or faces that might offer assistance during this challenging time. Summoning the last vestiges of courage, Claire reached out to press the doorbell button while pulling up her hoodie, as if to shield herself from the world. To her astonishment, the gates creaked open without a word or question about her intentions. As the towering iron gates gradually parted, they revealed the stern face of a man clad in a solemn suit. His features appeared weathered and gloomy, mirroring Claire's own desolation. A closer look confirmed her suspicion: he was a security guard. His presence, though initially startling, was a part of the intimidating exterior of this last address on her list. In a gruff voice, the man inquired, "What do you want?" Claire managed a small, nervous smile and replied, "I'm here regarding the advertisement for the housemaid position. Is this the right address?" Without saying anything, the man turned away and muttered something into his walkie-talkie. After a moment, he faced her once more, his stern features softening slightly. "Please come in. I'll show you the way," he said, gesturing toward the open gates. Claire stepped over the threshold, finding herself in a vast and elegant courtyard. The grandeur surrounded her, but she kept her head down, showing respect and refraining from openly admiring the decor. As the gates closed behind them, the man led the way, and Claire followed, keeping a respectful distance. Amidst the opulence, her anxiety remained, and her focus remained fixed on securing the job. "Mr. Baker, the young lady is here for the maid position," the guard announced, motioning towards Claire. The homeowner, with a crown of gray hair, looked up from his pile of papers. "Thank you, Cole," he replied to the guard. With that, Cole left the room, leaving Claire alone with Mr. Baker. Slowly, she removed her hood, revealing her full face to him. She felt a pang of disappointment as she noticed his relatively youthful appearance, expecting yet another rejection. Mr. Baker's raised eyebrows showed surprise as he spoke. "I apologize for my surprise, but are you sure you want to be a maid? You don't strike me as someone who would fit the role. Pretty girls like you are usually seen strutting down catwalks in high heels, not scrubbing floors." Claire's heart sank as she heard the sound of deep-rooted despair in her voice, a reflection of her past rejections. Gathering her courage, she replied firmly, "Yes, I am confident in my decision to work as a maid." Despite his initial surprise, Claire was determined to prove her sincerity and dedication to the job. She knew her appearance might create doubts, but her resolve to secure employment and overcome her financial struggles was unwavering. "I agree with you," Claire said, her voice steady. "My looks don't define my ability to work. Besides, I'm over 40 now, so the catwalk isn't really an option for me." Joseph considered her words, his fingers drumming rhythmically on the table, before finally replying, "Well, all right, please take a seat." With careful grace, Claire lowered herself into the chair offered. Joseph studied her, a pensive look in his eyes. "I don't suppose you have much experience in this line of work, do you?" Admitting the truth, Claire nodded. "Yes, this would be my first job as a maid, but I assure you, I'm a quick learner." Joseph looked at her, seemingly confused. "I don't doubt that, considering your educational background. But I can't help but ask, you're attractive, well-educated, why do you want to work as a housemaid?" A wry smile spread across Claire's face at this question. She felt she had nothing to lose. After all, this was her last resort. You're right. Once upon a time, my life was very different. I had a loving husband, a fulfilling job, a car, and a place I was proud to call home. But what I didn't know was that my husband had a hidden vice. He was a compulsive gambler. His dangerous addiction led to his murder. And soon after, the people he owed large sums of money to came knocking on my door. To pay off his debts, I sold everything. The apartment, the cars. But when I turned to friends and colleagues for support, I found myself alone. They all turned their backs on me. Claire paused for a moment to collect her thoughts before continuing. I came to understand that the world I thought I knew was nothing more than an illusion. The truth of life is something else entirely. This realization has served as a kind of system reboot for me. Now I see no point in chasing after lofty goals. I've learned the importance of humility, hard work, and making the best of any opportunity that comes my way. Working as a housemaid may not be glamorous, but it's an honest job, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to support myself. Joseph listened intently, his initial skepticism giving way to a growing sense of admiration for Claire's resilience and determination. "Thank you for sharing your story," he said softly. "I can see that you have a strong character and a genuine desire to make a fresh start. I'll give you a chance, Claire. Let's see how you handle the responsibilities of the job." Relief washed over Claire, but she maintained her composure. "Thank you, Mr. Baker. I won't let you down," she replied, her voice filled with gratitude and resolve. As she left the room with her new employer's trust, Claire felt a glimmer of hope, knowing that this opportunity could be the turning point she desperately needed in her life. "My focus is simply to make a living, to make sure I have food on the table. That's all I care about right now," Claire admitted. Joseph nodded, listening attentively. "That's quite an unusual story," he commented, his brow furrowing in thought. "Could it be depression?" "I assure you, I'm not depressed," Claire said firmly. "Do you think I haven't tried to find a job that matches my qualifications? My specialty is very niche, but my personal history always seems to overshadow my skills. It's frustrating when people express sympathy but offer no tangible help. I know you probably won't hire me either, but at least venting has made me feel a little lighter." With that, Claire rose from her seat, ready to leave. As she made her way to the door, she heard Joseph's voice. "Wait." She stopped mid-step and turned around in surprise. "You're hired," he declared, causing Claire's eyes to widen in disbelief. "I do have one question though. Was this your first attempt at applying?" "No," Claire replied, a hint of relief seeping into her voice. "Your house was the last on my list. Why didn't the others hire you?" Joseph asked curiously, shrugging his shoulders. Claire simply said, "The wise ones were against it." At her answer, Joseph let out a hearty laugh. "I should have guessed. Well, welcome aboard. My wife passed away 11 years ago. You won't have to worry about any objections here." Claire settled into her new surroundings quite well, thanks in large part to the homeowner's help. Joseph was always patient, taking the time to demonstrate how various tasks should be performed. For some reason, he seemed to apologize frequently, which Claire found strangely comforting, a testament to his kind and understanding nature. As the days passed, Claire began to feel a glimmer of hope rekindling within her. Having a stable job not only provided her with the means to survive but also restored her sense of self-worth. She took pride in her work, ensuring that every task was carried out with utmost dedication. And Joseph, far from being the stern man she had initially perceived, turned out to be a compassionate and generous employer. Their conversations became more than just exchanges about household duties. They delved into life's ups and downs, dreams, and aspirations. Joseph shared stories of his late wife, while Claire revealed more about her past struggles and the strength she had drawn from those experiences. As they continued to connect, Claire felt a newfound sense of belonging and acceptance. It was as if fate had guided her to this unlikely place of solace and understanding. In Joseph's home, she had found not just a job but a sanctuary where her scars were acknowledged and her determination celebrated. The once imposing iron gates that had marked the beginning of her journey now symbolized a gateway to a brighter future. A future built on hope, resilience, and the transformative power of human connections. And as the days turned into weeks, Claire's gratitude for her newfound opportunity grew deeper, knowing that she had finally found a place where her past wouldn't define her, but where her present and future would be embraced with open arms. "We had an older woman who worked here before you," Joseph confessed one day. "She was the only housekeeper we've ever had. 2 months ago, she decided to retire for good and spend time with her grandchildren. I tried my best to keep the house clean and even cooked meals. I'm used to cleanliness, but it turned out to be more of a challenge than I expected." At his earnest confession, Claire couldn't help but burst out laughing. "It's not as hard as you think," she reassured him. "The key is to understand your responsibilities and ensure that tasks are completed on time. Just like any other job, really." Despite her initial optimism, Claire quickly realized that her job wasn't going to be easy. The house needed a lot of work. Though it wasn't immediately obvious, a layer of dust had settled everywhere, indicating that the house hadn't been thoroughly cleaned in quite some time. And the kitchen, she discovered, was an entirely different challenge. The sea of debris spoke volumes about the daunting tasks that lay ahead. One evening, after they had finished dinner, a meal Joseph insisted she share with him when they didn't have guests, he made an unexpected suggestion. "Claire, the weather outside is quite lovely," he began, his voice tentative. "I hope I'm not overstepping, but would you be open to sharing a glass of fine wine with me? I'd forgotten how good fine wine actually tastes." Claire smiled warmly. "I'd love to," she replied, touched by the gesture. As they settled into the rocking chairs on the patio, they talked in a relaxed manner. Joseph broke the silence. "I have a daughter. She lives in Portugal. She went there to study, but she decided to stay. Now I just send her money every month." Claire listened attentively as Joseph shared stories about his daughter and their occasional phone calls. It was clear that he cared deeply for her, and Claire admired the bond they had despite the distance between them. In turn, Claire opened up about her own life, her past struggles, and her dreams for the future. As the evening wore on, they found themselves engrossed in each other's company, savoring the simple pleasure of conversation and connection. The fine wine they shared seemed to enhance the intimacy of the moment, creating a space of comfort and trust between them. From that night on, sharing a glass of wine on the patio became a cherished ritual for Claire and Joseph. It was a time when they could unwind, share their thoughts, and appreciate the beauty of life unfolding before them. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, their bond deepened, and the once imposing iron gates that had led Claire to this unexpected opportunity now symbolized the gateway to not just a job but a genuine friendship that had blossomed against all odds. As he said this, Joseph covered his face with his palms and sighed deeply and sadly. The serene atmosphere was momentarily tinged with a sense of melancholy. "Lately, I've been acting more like a bank teller than a father," Joseph admitted, his voice filled with regret. "We've lost touch with her. She only calls when she needs more money, and I only call to confirm that she has received it." Intrigued, Claire asked, "Does she ever visit you?" "She's only been here twice in the last 4 years," Joseph confessed. "Have you tried inviting her?" "No strings attached, just ask her to come home and spend some time with you." Joseph looked at her thoughtfully. "Do you think it would make a difference?" "Honestly, you never know until you try," Claire replied encouragingly. Joseph spent the next week thinking about Claire's suggestion, weighing its potential and considering its implications. Each evening, Joseph and Claire sat on the patio, deep in conversation. Joseph broached the subject of Claire's past only once, respecting her privacy and showing sensitivity to her troubled history. "You know what, Claire? I really appreciate you," Joseph said one night, his tone sincere. "Both as a person and as a housekeeper, there's a certain warmth you exude. Since you started working here, this house has begun to feel more like a home. I want you to take your time here to heal, to regain your strength. But eventually, I think you should get your life back. A vibrant woman like you shouldn't be lost to the world. Don't misunderstand me. I'll support you in any way I can." Claire was moved by Joseph's words. She had found not just a job but also a place where she was appreciated and valued. Their open and honest conversations had created a strong bond between them, and Claire realized that she had become more than just a housekeeper to Joseph, she had become a trusted friend. As for Joseph, he was beginning to see the potential for rekindling the connection with his daughter. Inspired by Claire's advice, he mustered the courage to reach out to his daughter with an open invitation, hoping that they could rebuild their relationship and find their way back to each other. In the midst of their own personal journeys, Claire and Joseph had unknowingly become catalysts for each other's growth and healing. The friendship that blossomed between them was a testament to the power of empathy and understanding, reminding them both that even in the darkest of times, the warmth of human connection could light the way to a brighter future. Claire gave him a wistful smile. "I don't even know what to say, Mr. Baker. The thought of returning to a normal life is not something I'm ready to contemplate just yet." No, take your time," he rushed to reassure her. "I didn't mean to rush you. If it were up to me, I'd be happy for you to continue to look after my house and stay here as long as you need to." Claire laughed, her mood visibly brightening. "Honestly, I never thought we'd be having this conversation. I must apologize, but when we first met, you seemed quite intimidating." Joseph replied with a smile. "Well, as they say, never judge a book by its cover." At that moment, Joseph's gaze lingered on Claire a little longer than usual, causing her to blush. Realizing his unintended effect, he quickly changed the subject. "I completely forgot to mention that I followed your advice. My daughter arrives tomorrow. Can you believe it?" Although it took her a while to respond, she called back within 10 minutes to confirm that she was coming. And here's the surprise. She's bringing a friend. I guess it's her boyfriend or maybe even her fiancé. That's wonderful news. We should prepare something special to welcome her, Claire suggested, her face lighting up with enthusiasm. Seeing her excitement, Joseph couldn't help but chuckle. "All right, Claire, I don't want to keep you up too late tonight. I can see your eyes lighting up at the thought of the preparations, and you've completely forgotten our conversation. You should get some rest." The next day, Nora arrived in grand style. She made quite an entrance, sweeping into the house with suitcases full of stylish clothes and extravagant dresses. As Claire greeted her warmly, she noticed the resemblance between father and daughter, the same expressive eyes and warm smile. During Nora's stay, the house was filled with laughter and chatter. Claire and Joseph watched as their relationship slowly rekindled. The walls that had once separated them started to crumble, and in their place, bridges of understanding were built. As the days passed, Claire couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Not only had she found a job that gave her purpose and stability, but she had also played a part in healing the wounds of a broken family. It was a reminder that sometimes, unexpected encounters could lead to the most significant transformations in life. As Nora and her friend bid their farewells, Claire felt a pang of sadness, but she also knew that their visit had been a turning point for Joseph. He had reconnected with his daughter and learned the value of cherishing family bonds. And Claire herself had learned that sometimes, stepping out of her comfort zone and embracing new opportunities could lead to a future filled with hope and happiness. As she watched Nora's car disappear into the distance, Claire turned to Joseph with a contented smile. "Thank you for this chance, Mr. Baker. Your home has become my sanctuary, and I've found a newfound purpose here. I'll continue to do my best as your housekeeper and friend." Joseph smiled warmly at her. "The pleasure is all mine, Claire. You've brought life back into this house, and I'm grateful to have you here. As long as you're willing, you're more than welcome to stay." And so, Claire's journey continued, her heart filled with gratitude for the unexpected twist of fate that had led her to Joseph's doorstep. With newfound hope and a sense of belonging, she embraced the challenges and joys that lay ahead, knowing that she had finally found a place where she truly belonged. Adorned in the latest couture and sparkling jewelry, Nora made a striking entrance, a living embodiment of opulence and luxury. In the kitchen, Claire sensed the guests' arrival, but instead of rushing to greet them, she focused her energy on meticulously setting the table, determined to prepare a delicious meal for Joseph's daughter. Although Claire hadn't met Nora yet, she held a deep respect for Joseph, and that respect naturally extended to his family due to the kind and thoughtful way he had treated them. Half an hour later, the guests were comfortably seated in the grand dining room. The air was filled with the comforting aroma of a lovingly home-cooked meal, and the room buzzed with gentle conversation. The table was a vision of elegance, with shining cutlery arranged precisely beside fine china plates. With purpose and a warm smile, Claire moved gracefully around the table, serving each guest with a large bowl filled to the brim with spaghetti and succulent homemade meatballs. Her dance of hospitality flowed effortlessly as she attended to their needs. Joseph took his first bite and was instantly captivated by the incredible flavors. Despite his familiarity with good food, the meal Claire had prepared was truly exceptional. It was a delightful fusion of flavors, expertly seasoned and cooked to perfection. He could barely contain his delight, savoring every bite, each one a testament to Claire's culinary expertise. However, Nora's reaction was different. Although the meal was undeniably delicious, she made no overt display of appreciation. Her expression remained neutral, revealing little of her thoughts about the food. Nora's demeanor was composed, offering no insight into her feelings. Throughout the dinner, Claire observed Nora carefully, trying to understand her better. She couldn't help but wonder if Nora's apparent lack of enthusiasm was a result of her distant past or a reflection of her current life. As the evening unfolded, Claire remained respectful and attentive, ensuring that all the guests felt welcomed and comfortable. After dinner, the guests retired to the living room for a round of heartfelt conversations. Claire discreetly excused herself, understanding that family time required a level of privacy. She took solace in the fact that the evening had gone smoothly, even if Nora's reactions remained an enigma. As Claire settled into her own room later that night, she reflected on the day's events. She had witnessed the reunion of a father and daughter, and her heart swelled with contentment. Whatever Nora's reasons for her restrained demeanor, Claire knew that her presence had played a part in bringing this family together. In the coming days, Nora's stay continued, and Claire continued to show her hospitality with grace and warmth. Although there were moments of uncertainty, Claire remained steadfast in her commitment to making the house feel like a home for Joseph, Nora, and anyone else who needed it. She understood that time and understanding were the keys to unraveling the complexities of the human heart, and she was willing to wait patiently for the walls around Nora's heart to come down, one gentle moment at a time. Nora, much like her father, possessed a commanding presence. Her striking physical stature and confident demeanor were reminiscent of Joseph. As they interacted, it became evident that they shared many traits, from certain mannerisms to expressions, highlighting the strong family resemblance despite the physical distance between them. Accompanying Nora was a man who presented a stark contrast to her youthful exuberance. With a sharp nose and an air of world-weariness, he exuded a sense of maturity that set him apart from Nora's youthful energy. The noticeable age difference suggested he was at least 15 years older than Nora. Joseph couldn't help but observe the man with surprise and curiosity. The age gap and Nora's choice of companion caught him off guard, though he managed to maintain a polite yet slightly strained smile as he addressed the man directly. "So, Jason, What line of work are you in? Joseph inquired, his curiosity getting the better of him. Sensing Nora's discomfort with the directness of the question, Jason intervened, maintaining his composure. Dad, maybe you could ask him about the flight or his impressions of our country first. Why the rush to know about his profession? Nora interjected, hoping for a more gradual and less intrusive line of questioning from her father. Jason, unruffled by the unexpected inquiry, calmly finished chewing his food before responding, "That's all right, my dear. Let me answer your father." He then shared a brief overview of his background and experiences, skillfully guiding the conversation away from any potential awkwardness. Throughout the evening, Claire observed the interactions between the family and their guest, maintaining her graceful presence and attentiveness. She understood that the dynamics between loved ones and new acquaintances could be sensitive, and she was committed to ensuring everyone felt at ease. As the night drew to a close, Nora's initial reservations began to soften. Jason's warm and sincere demeanor helped bridge the gap between him and Joseph, and Claire admired how he took the time to connect with Joseph on various topics beyond professional details. In the following days, Jason's presence continued to be a part of the household. As the days turned into weeks, Joseph and Jason grew more comfortable with each other. Claire noticed how they shared stories and experiences, and she could see that the walls between them were gradually coming down. While Nora and Jason's relationship was still a bit of a mystery to the household, Claire trusted that time and understanding would unravel the intricacies. She was happy to witness the house becoming more than just a home to its occupants. It had become a place where connections were formed, and hearts began to heal. Taking a thoughtful sip of wine, Jason composed himself before speaking, his voice measured and confident. He carefully chose his words, recognizing the significance of the moment. "I work as a talent manager," Jason began, his tone steady. "My job involves collaborating with models, actors, singers, and various other creative individuals. I specialize in connecting the right people, leveraging my network to facilitate opportunities and collaborations." Joseph listened attentively, acknowledging Jason's explanation with a nod. Though he remained silent, it was evident that he was absorbing the information, his thoughts carefully guarded. Curious about the nature of their relationship, Joseph asked, "So, how did you two meet?" Nora and Jason exchanged a brief, hesitant look, indicating their discomfort with discussing personal details. Sensing their unease, Nora quickly intervened, "We actually met at an art show, Dad." Recognizing their unspoken boundaries, Joseph respected their privacy and changed the subject. As Claire gracefully attended to her duties, moving around the dining room with poise, she couldn't help but feel Jason's lingering gaze. The intensity of his looks did not go unnoticed, and Nora also picked up on the subtle glances exchanged between Jason and Claire. Once Claire excused herself and retreated to the kitchen, Nora took the opportunity to address the situation with her father. "Dad, who is that lady? Is she your new servant?" Joseph gently shook his head. "No, Nora, she's not a servant. Claire is more like an assistant who helps me with the household and daily tasks." Just as Claire re-entered the room, carrying a delectable dessert, Joseph took the opportunity to introduce her to the guests. There was a note of pride in his voice as he said, "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Claire." Claire greeted the guests with a warm smile, her friendly and approachable demeanor putting them at ease. Nora found herself feeling more at ease with Claire's presence, sensing her father's trust in her. Throughout the evening, the atmosphere became increasingly relaxed, and the conversation flowed more freely. As the night came to a close, Claire couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be part of this evolving family dynamic. Little did she know that this chance encounter at the imposing iron gates would lead to a journey filled with unexpected connections, meaningful conversations, and the rediscovery of hope in the hearts of those she touched. Claire's skilled hands and bright mind made her an invaluable member of the household, and Joseph beamed with appreciation for her presence. However, Nora's remarks cut through the pleasant atmosphere like a knife. She couldn't resist making pointed comments, questioning why Claire was waiting tables instead of being with her husband and family, or if she had ulterior motives to become part of their family. Joseph, maintaining his composure, calmly wiped his mouth with a napkin, taking a moment to collect his thoughts. It was evident that he was making a conscious effort to avoid reacting harshly to Nora's comments. With a measured tone, he addressed his daughter, emphasizing the importance of manners and respect for others without singling anyone out. Feeling the tension rise, Claire instinctively sought refuge in the kitchen, finding solace in the familiar surroundings of her duties. From afar, she observed Nora's discontented expression as she confronted her boyfriend, Julian, sharply. Julian's discomfort was apparent, and he hurriedly left the room after a mumbled response to Nora's sharp remarks. Nora followed him, calling out urgently, and their voices became distant as they engaged in a heated argument. The kitchen fell quiet as Claire continued her tasks, uncertain about the unfolding dynamic between Nora and Julian. The intensity of their voices eventually subsided, replaced by a calmer tone. In the kitchen, Claire couldn't help but reflect on the complexities of family dynamics and how even the most luxurious surroundings couldn't shield people from disagreements and misunderstandings. As she moved about, Claire maintained her composure, knowing that her role was to bring a sense of warmth and stability to the household. She understood that everyone had their own struggles and emotions, and she was grateful for the chance to be a part of this family's journey, even in the face of challenges. Claire remained patient, hopeful that with time, understanding, and empathy, the bonds between the family members would grow stronger, allowing them to navigate through the rough waters together and find harmony once more. Joseph's concerned gaze shifted to Claire, and she responded with understanding. She acknowledged that jealousy could lead to unexpected emotions and reactions. Joseph seemed confused as she mentioned Nora's possible jealousy of Jason. Claire gently explained that it was apparent to her that Nora had developed feelings for Jason, possibly more than he reciprocated. As the evening unfolded, Claire completed her duties, trying to process the complex situation. Seeking solace, she retreated to the peaceful patio, sipping her tea and finding comfort in the serene surroundings. However, her tranquility was disrupted when she overheard Nora demanding that Joseph fire her. Her heart sank as she listened to Nora's harsh words, and she could feel the tension and gravity of the situation unfold in the study. Joseph's voice held confusion and concern as he asked Nora why she wanted to dismiss Claire. Nora's frustration was evident in her insistent reply, demanding that Claire be let go immediately. Claire stood still, her emotions swirling within her. It hurt to hear Nora's words, knowing that despite her efforts and dedication, she was now facing rejection. The bond she had hoped to form with Joseph and his family seemed to be at risk, overshadowed by Nora's insecurities and emotions. Taking a deep breath, Claire steadied herself and decided to face the situation head-on. She couldn't ignore the tension any longer. It was time to address the matter with Joseph and Nora directly. Claire knew that honest communication was essential to resolving the underlying issues, and she was determined to do her best to find a resolution that would bring harmony back into their lives. Claire stood there, feeling the weight of the situation on her shoulders. She hadn't expected such hostility from Nora, and the demand for her dismissal left her feeling vulnerable and unsure about her place in the household. The room fell into a tense silence as Joseph processed his daughter's request. He settled into a chair, taking a deep breath to gather his thoughts. His thoughtful pause hung in the air, the room holding its breath, waiting for his response. Joseph's words carried a sense of authority, gently reminding Nora that he was the one with the final say in household matters. He sought to understand her reasons and foster open dialogue to reach a resolution that would satisfy both of them. Nora argued, expressing her dissatisfaction with Jason's attention towards Claire. Joseph listened calmly, acknowledging her feelings while providing a fatherly perspective. He emphasized that true love and devotion should not be threatened by the presence of another person. Joseph also gently suggested that Nora deserved someone who valued and cherished her for who she was. Despite his attempts to reason with her, Nora's frustration grew. She accused Claire of deliberate flirting and questioned her suitability as Joseph's assistant. In response, Joseph maintained his composure, assuring Nora that Claire's professionalism and skill set made her an invaluable member of the household. Realizing that the situation required more than just words, Joseph decided it was crucial to address the issue directly and foster a better understanding between Nora, Jason, and Claire. He proposed a family meeting where everyone could openly express their feelings and concerns. During the meeting, they discussed the dynamics of their relationships and the importance of trust and communication. Claire assured Nora that her intentions were purely professional, and she had no romantic interest in Jason. Nora began to see that her insecurities were affecting her judgment and that she needed to work on her trust issues. With time and patience, Nora started to build a better relationship with Claire, realizing that her presence did not threaten her happiness. The tension in the household eased, and Joseph's wisdom and determination to protect his daughter's happiness prevailed. As they moved forward, the family learned to value open communication, trust, and understanding, strengthening their bond as a united family. Joseph's patience was wearing thin as he contemplated how to handle the situation. "Enough with the servant label, Nora," he urged, trying to reason with her. Nora, however, was persistent, convinced she could read Claire's intentions. "I can't even see what she's thinking. If she can't have you, she'll settle for Julian," Nora asserted, her desperation evident. Joseph's voice grew firmer as he responded, "Nora, stop this nonsense. It's groundless." He made it clear that he wouldn't entertain the idea of firing Claire. Instead, he urged Nora to consider whether Jason was truly the right person for her if he couldn't be faithful. Nora's tone softened, revealing her underlying motives. She explained that Jason was helping her achieve her goals in Portugal and that she didn't want to return to their home country. Joseph remained cautious in his response, recognizing that emotions were running high and the discussion needed to be postponed until things had calmed down. As Nora left the room, Claire's senses were on high alert. She knew she had to be careful around Nora, given her feelings and suspicions. When Claire encountered Nora again, she greeted her with a polite smile. Nora requested a cup of hot tea before bed, and Claire agreed to prepare it for her. As Claire headed to the kitchen, she couldn't shake the feeling of tension in the air. She worked diligently, hoping that a warm cup of tea might bring some comfort to Nora. With the tea ready, she returned to Nora's room and gently handed her the cup. Nora thanked her, and as Claire left the room, she couldn't help but wonder about the complex dynamics at play. She knew that navigating this situation required both caution and empathy. As the household settled into a peaceful night, Claire hoped that tomorrow would bring a fresh start and an opportunity for open communication to resolve the underlying issues. As promised, Claire prepared a cup of tea for Nora and then retreated to her own bedroom. However, upon her return, she experienced a moment of uncertainty. She usually kept her door closed at all times, but now, she couldn't recall if she had left it open or if it had been open earlier. Despite finding everything in its proper place, a lingering uneasiness remained. Feeling unsettled by the day's events, Claire decided to put her concerns aside and settled into bed, hoping sleep would provide some relief. She held no anger toward Nora, understanding the complexities of relationships and recognizing Nora's youthful nature. Claire's empathy came from her own personal experiences as an attractive woman who had faced challenges due to her appearance. Throughout her youth, Claire had encountered situations where people were more interested in her physical beauty than in her ideas and thoughts. This constant objectification had caused her frustration and pain, as she longed for deeper connections and genuine understanding. Understanding that Nora's actions and judgments were influenced by her own insecurities and experiences, Claire empathized with her struggles. In bed, Claire tossed and turned, her mind filled with swirling thoughts that refused to subside. Sleep eluded her as the weight of the day's events and her own emotions kept her restless. Frustrated by her inability to find rest, she decided to seek solace in the cool night air. Quietly slipping out onto the terrace, she breathed in the crisp night breeze, hoping it would help calm her troubled thoughts. Under the moonlit sky, Claire found a moment of peace as she gazed at the stars above. The quietude of the night wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, allowing her mind to slowly settle. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and emotions to navigate, but for now, she allowed herself to find solace in the tranquil night. Under the soft glow of the moon, Claire found a moment of serenity and clarity in the stillness of the night. As she prepared to retire to her bedroom, she noticed a faint flashlight beam coming from Joseph's study, piquing her curiosity. Wondering why someone was using a flashlight instead of the lights, she decided to investigate further. With cautious steps, she made her way back into the house, navigating the dimly lit hallway with a mix of intrigue and caution. Concealed in the shadows, she observed a figure moving stealthily from the study towards Jason and Nora's room. An unsettling feeling washed over her, and she sensed that something was amiss. Later that morning, as Claire focused on preparing lunch in the kitchen, the peaceful ambience was abruptly shattered by chaos. Nora burst into the room, her face twisted with anger and frustration, followed closely by Joseph, his expression a mix of concern and urgency. "Dad, you know I wouldn't have taken her, let alone Jason. There's no one else but her." Nora's voice carried frustration and desperation, insinuating that Claire was somehow involved in the current predicament. Joseph, with a look of despair in his eyes, turned to Claire, seeking guidance and resolution in the midst of the turmoil. Claire remained composed, her mind racing to understand the situation. "Nora, I assure you, I have nothing to do with this," she calmly replied. "Please tell me what's going on." Nora's anger seemed to momentarily soften, and she hesitated before blurting out, "I caught Jason texting another woman last night. He was hiding it from me, and when I confronted him, he admitted to having an affair. He said it was just a fling, but I can't believe anything he says anymore." Claire's heart went out to Nora, understanding the pain of betrayal all too well. "I'm sorry you're going through this," she said gently. "But I promise you, I had no part in it. I don't know anything about Jason's actions." Joseph sighed heavily, his face etched with sadness and disappointment. "I don't want any of us to be caught in the middle of this mess," he said. "Let's take some time to talk things through calmly. Nora, I'll be here for you, and Claire, I trust you to be honest with us." With emotions still raw and tensions high, they retreated to the living room, sitting together in an attempt to find a resolution amidst the turmoil. As they began to talk, Claire couldn't help but hope that somehow, from the ashes of chaos, a path to healing and understanding might emerge. Claire's heart pounded in her chest as she followed Joseph to her bedroom, unsure of what they would find inside. His request for her to accompany him was both surprising and unsettling, filling her with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. As they entered the room, Joseph's hesitant actions revealed his reluctance to invade Claire's privacy. He seemed more concerned with seeking reassurance than uncovering evidence. In the midst of their search, Nora's accusing voice echoed through the halls, insinuating that someone from within their midst was responsible for the missing key. The implication weighed heavily on Claire, and she felt a pang of hurt as the accusation indirectly targeted her. With Nora now in the room, Claire observed her meticulously going through her belongings, leaving no corner unexplored. Her attention eventually fell on Claire's purse, perched on a stand in the middle of the room. Nora's curiosity and accusation were evident as she pointed to it and asked, "What's in it? Are my things in there? Like a makeup kit? My phone? There are many things." Feeling put on the spot, Claire hesitated for a moment before answering, "Yes, it's just a regular purse. It contains my personal belongings like makeup, my phone, and other essentials. Nothing out of the ordinary." Nora's gaze seemed to intensify, and her suspicious expression lingered. "Then let me see," she demanded, her tone firm. Unwilling to further fuel the tension, Claire reluctantly handed her purse to Nora. Nora proceeded to rummage through its contents, seemingly searching for any incriminating evidence. Claire's mind raced, trying to comprehend the situation and make sense of Nora's accusations. She struggled to understand why she was being singled out as a possible suspect in the missing key incident. With each passing moment, the atmosphere in the room became more charged with tension, and Claire felt a growing sense of discomfort. As Nora continued her search, Joseph intervened, attempting to de-escalate the situation. "Nora, enough," he said firmly. "This is not the way to handle this situation. Let's take a step back and try to find a peaceful resolution." Nora reluctantly returned the purse to Claire, her frustration apparent. "Fine," she huffed, crossing her arms. "But we need to figure this out, Dad. Someone took the key, and we need to know who." Claire couldn't help but feel that Nora's focus on her was unwarranted. She knew she had nothing to hide, but the weight of suspicion was difficult to bear. As they left her room, Claire's mind was filled with unanswered questions, and she longed for the truth to come to light, bringing an end to the tension and uncertainty that had taken hold of the household. Nora's shock and disbelief were evident as she picked up the key from Claire's spilled purse. Her accusations and anger towards Claire now seemed misplaced, leaving her feeling exposed and ashamed. The weight of her actions and the realization that her deception had been uncovered weighed heavily on her. Joseph's voice carried a mix of sadness and understanding as he addressed his daughter. "Nora, my dear, I know it was you who put the key in Claire's purse. I cannot explain how I know this, but the truth has become clear to me." Nora's face reflected a whirlwind of emotions, from shock to guilt and shame. Despite the revelation, Joseph reassured Nora of his unwavering love for her. "Please understand that my love for you is unwavering. I would do anything to make you happy." However, he knew that there was something else he had to reveal, a difficult truth that would impact Nora deeply. Joseph proceeded to share the truth about Julian, the man Nora considered her boyfriend and future fiancé. He explained that Julian had been attempting to steal important papers from his study, and it was Claire's presence that unknowingly thwarted the theft. Joseph recounted how Julian had left a fake note for Nora, attempting to cover his tracks. As the truth sank in, Nora's anger turned inward, directed at herself and at Julian for betraying her trust. She couldn't believe she had been manipulated and used to gain access to her father's belongings. Filled with a mix of emotions, Nora stormed out, determined to confront Julian and seek answers. The door burst open hours later, and there stood Nora, her face a mask of anger and disappointment. Joseph and Claire exchanged a concerned look, understanding that the situation had taken an unexpected turn. As the tension in the room escalated, Claire braced herself for what would come next, uncertain of how the unfolding drama would affect her position in the household. In the midst of the turmoil, Claire's empathy remained, as she knew all too well the complexities of relationships and the tangled emotions that could lead people astray. She could only hope that the truth would eventually prevail, bringing resolution to the tangled web of deceit and mistrust that had taken hold of the household. Nora burst into the room, her tear-streaked face revealing the pain and regret that had consumed her. Joseph immediately turned his attention to his distraught daughter, his voice filled with concern and compassion. "Nora, are you okay, honey?" he asked between gasps for breath. "Father, you were right. He was indeed an imposter. He wouldn't even talk to me. He just walked away," Nora managed to say, the reality of her situation sinking in, leaving her feeling vulnerable and alone. Joseph hugged his daughter tightly, offering comfort and reassurance. "Hey, it's okay, baby girl. If it wasn't for Claire, who saw everything and told me in time, I don't know if you would ever know the truth about him." Nora turned to Claire, her eyes filled with remorse. "I'm really sorry," she whispered. Claire's smile was genuine, her forgiveness immediate. How could she hold a grudge when Nora's hand subtly squeezed hers, a silent gesture of support and unity? In that moment, Claire realized the power of compassion and the strength to be found in forgiveness. She gently touched Nora's arm with her other hand. "It's okay, Nora," she said, her voice filled with warmth and understanding. "We all make mistakes. The important thing now is that you've learned from this experience. We're here for you." Joseph's reassuring presence and Claire's forgiving nature created a sense of comfort and unity in the room. As Nora's tears continued to flow, a glimmer of hope emerged in the midst of the pain as the family began the process of healing and rebuilding their bonds, stronger than ever. With hearts open to understanding and growth, the family vowed to support each other through the challenges life might bring. They understood that mistakes were a part of being human, and what truly mattered was the love and compassion they showed to one another. In the weeks that followed, Nora began to rebuild her life, surrounded by the unwavering support of her father and the genuine friendship of Claire. The household felt like a true home, filled with love, trust, and forgiveness. As the story came to an end, the narrator's voice took on a gentle tone, expressing gratitude to the audience for sharing in the emotional journey. "That's it for my story. I hope it moved you, amused you, or enlightened you. If you're looking for more stories from me, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button on this video. And if you want to tell me what you think of this story, please leave a comment below. I value your opinions and suggestions. Thank you for your time and interest. Bye." The narrator's voice trailed off, leaving the audience with a sense of closure and a lingering warmth from the heartfelt tale they had just experienced.